Good morning, my name is Christel from Frans, the Klerk Independent Technical Analyst. The first one on our list this week is Tiger Brands. Now, we have warned previously about this massive head and shoulder formation that could spark some profit taking, and that was warning that should that neckline change into a resistance, the full length of that head could take the share to lower levels. And it did. Almost within 1 week, the target of the head and shoulder formation was reached. Ever since then, we saw a little bit of bounces here and there, and then lower highs with another inverse cup and handle formation that took the share even lower. But last week, a beautiful dragonfly candle appeared. A dragonfly candle has got a long tail at the bottom, usually appears at the bottom of a sell-off, and that long tail implies that there were investors that were prepared to buy the dips. In other words, as soon as the share price hit the low of the session, and I'll give you that exact price now, waiting at 136.76, there were buyers that said this is an opportunity to start accumulating the share, and they've managed to close the share a lot higher at 147 Rand 51. Still down nevertheless from the opening to the closing price. That's why you've got a red real body, but that long tail implies optimism. Yes, the share is nicely oversold on the stochastic indicator. And what does that mean? The probability for the instrument to bounce to higher levels is more likely. And the fact that a positive divergence is on the brink to take place. My K line is sitting at 18.9 and my orange line at 19.88. As soon as that blue line starts to break upwards through the orange line, a positive divergence will be confirmed, implies that the probability for a bounce to higher levels is even more likely. Combining that with a beautiful positive turnaround candle might be the hint that we can see a bounce. We can start to see maybe that investors start to buy the dips to support the share price to higher levels. Now take note, this support level of 136.76 is very close to these support levels back in May 2022. And that was the base that supported the share price to take it to a recent high of 227 Rand, around there. So yes, very important. First sign of strength will be above the high of 153 Rand 61, or any other candle that now after this week's candle shows us that there's optimism, shows us that there's higher lows on the shadows, long tails at the bottom, maybe a tweezer bottom, or maybe even a formation that of a double bottom, an inverse head and shoulder, or a cup and handle formation that shows us that there are the informed capital, the big investors are also making use of this oversold situation to protect the share. Obviously, as soon as that low, that strong support waiting at 136 Rand 76, if that level changes into a resistance again, we can assume that the momentum to the bottom can continue. Tebogo wanted us to look at Shoprite. Now, Shoprite, Tebogo, obviously, if we go back, the recent record high was at around 257 Rand 70 earlier in August this year. A little bit of profit taking took place, and now the stochastic is in mid-zone. And that tells us the share can either bounce back upwards again, or the profit taking to the bottom can continue. Now the big next test is my red line. That is the line in the sand, my 40-week moving average. Below it, the long-term sentiment will change to negative, and above it, it will remain positive. Now, if I look back at the history, we can see that the 40-week moving average was tested and found support, but as soon as it changed into a resistance and tested it again, could not change it into a support, it took the share fairly lower. So it will be interesting to see what Shoprite does when it gets to that 40-week moving average, waiting at 231 Rand 22. It's not a place to buy, and it's not a place to take profit. All right, you should have taken profit when the stochastic was overbought with the negative divergence and that tweezer bottom there at the top, where 2 consecutive candles found resistance at almost the same levels. That was the hint to start taking profit. So at the moment, I would sit on my hands and wait to see what the stochastic does, along with the candles, to say whether the investors are going to continue to support the price for higher levels, or are they going to take this below the 40-week moving average, which will make the sentiment towards the share negative. So at the moment, I would have to wait and see what Shoprite does with this 40-week moving average. But if you are a momentum trader, then obviously above that high of 237.62, we can assume that the momentum to the top can continue again, and below 231.22, my 40-week, we can assume that the momentum to the bottom can escalate. Next one on our list is Bidcorp. We can see a massive spike to the upside on the line graph, back to that high of 456.19. Serious profit taking. Tested that neckline, waiting at 422.24. Bounced a little bit and then retraced again as investors took profit as soon as the share price bounced, and that is seen as negative. Below that neckline, waiting at 422 Rand 24. Below that level, that ugly inverse cup and handle formation is confirmed. And what is the full target of the formation? It's the full length of that cup projected downwards from the neckline where the formation is confirmed, which can take it possibly back to 388 Rand. Our big test will obviously be that 40-week moving average. Below that level, the long-term sentiment towards Bidcorp will change to negative again. And above the top of the handle, waiting at 424 Rand 24, above that level, the warning of that inverse cup and handle will be off the table, and we can assume that then that the momentum to the top can escalate. My stochastic is in mid zone. That is not the place where I want to take a position. I want to fight my opponent in the corners. I want to sell or go short when it's overbought, and I want to buy when it's oversold at the bottom below a 20. When it's in mid zone, I do not fight it because it can go back. I mean, it can easily bounce, or investors can take it a lot lower. If I go back, we can see for a very long time the 40-week moving average was tested, continually tested. But once it changed into a support, there was no stop to the share price, and we can probably see it on the downside again. Once that 40-week moving average starts to change into a resistance, the momentum to the bottom can escalate. PSG Financial Services, the old PSG Consult, a ticker KST, and I think I've chosen the wrong one here, correct. Let's go back. Great. At the moment, we can see critical level. The 40-week moving average, investors are trying to support that 40-week moving average, waiting at 12 Rand 88. And I want to go back to a candle graph because you can see beautifully a positive technical good buy keys. 2 consecutive candles where this 40-week moving average was tested and it remained a support. That tells you that is the critical support level. Below 1288, the tears will flow again, but profit taking can continue. But investors wanted to protect that. They saw that as the level of support where they want to continue to buy the share. Now, the fact that it tested that 40-week, kept it as support, is seen as very, very positive. And the fact that 2 consecutive candles after a sell-off found support at the same level confirms a tweezer bottom once either the left or the right candle at the top or real body starts to change into a support again. Because then that tweezer bottom will say, listen, the profit taking has been done and we can expect some upside again. So I would use the first one, and that is above 1334. We can see the first sign of strength again in PSG, but below 1288 we can see some profit taking to continue. Look at my stochastic. Both lines are still pointing downwards, implying that the momentum to the bottom is still in place. So take your decision making from the candles to say whether the other investors have also started to protect the share price for higher levels. The all-time high, if we go back on PSG Consult, was in the week of the 3rd of January 2022 at 14 Rand 74. Maybe a strong resistance that the share price can go and test at a later stage. Don't forget to send through your requests for next week's recording. Have a fantastic week. Take care.